press called it the crime of the century. A wealthy industrialist and his socialite wife hacked to death in their own home. The autopsy revealed an explosion of rage. From the outset, the police botched the case.
What surprised me the most is the lack of investigation on a multiple murder.
Procedures were ignored. Evidence lost.
The biggest mystery is, where did the blood go?
The surviving evidence led to the couple's spinster daughter. But she got off scot-free.
She had a great legal team. She had the dream team.
For the first time, a team of investigators will apply modern forensics to this century-old murder. A case far more complex.
Ooh, how is it? What the? Can you catch that?
Then, the familiar nursery rhyme. Did Lizzie get away with murder? In this house, in Fall River, Massachusetts, a crime was committed that shocked the nation. It was the most notorious murder of the 19th century. The case became a household name and a media circus.
The Associated Press had only recently been founded in Boston, so this was the first sensational murder that actually went out on the wires.
Well, welcome to the Lizzie Borden house.
Thank you, sir.
Now, over a century after the murders, two of our investigators reopened the case. Detective Tom Lang led the O.J. Simpson investigation. He finds eerie parallels with the Lizzie Borden case.
What surprised me the most, I think, is the lack of investigation on a multiple murder initially.
Tom Moriello is a professor of criminalistics at the University of Maryland and author of The Criminal Investigation Handbook.
There's so many different theories and so many different legends, and you have to pick and choose which ones you want to believe.
Despite all the coverage and a century of amateur research, how much do we really know about the murders?
We know on August 4th, 1892, that two people were murdered at 92 2nd Street in Fall River, Massachusetts, by person or persons unknown. That's all we know.
According to police, around 9:30 a.m., 64-year-old Abby Borden was making up the guest room.
Oh, it's you.
Abby was struck in the head 19 times. Shortly after, downstairs in the sitting room, her husband, Andrew Borden, suffered the same fate. Moments later, appeared the couple's daughter, Lizzie.
Maggie! Maggie, come quick! Somebody's killed Father!
Someone called the police. The Keystone Cops responded. Gawkers were allowed to tramp through the crime scene, while officers chased down a bizarre list of suspects.
If you read the witness statements and you read the newspapers, you do find that there were at least 42 suspects that had been investigated.
Certainly no one knew exactly how to handle a murder of this magnitude.
After ruling out nearly all the possible suspects, the Fall River police narrowed their list down to just 4. Bridget Sullivan, the Borden's 26-year-old Irish maid, an illiterate immigrant with a dark past.
Take you to wash the window.
John Morse, Lizzie's uncle, who arrived at the Borden house on a surprise visit the night before the murders. Emma Borden, the agoraphobic older daughter, who claimed she was visiting friends during the murders. And the youngest daughter, Lizzie, a 32-year-old Sunday school teacher who still lived at home. Lang and Moriello will reinvestigate all 4 suspects, using the original police files, coroner's reports, and court transcripts. Their first step, inspecting the scene of the crime. The main change in the Borden house is its function. Today, it's a bed and breakfast with a taste for the macabre, carefully restored to mimic the original decor. Though much of the evidence was lost, the crime scene photos survive, the work of a private photographer hired by police in a flash of foresight.
At the time, photography was in its infancy. Police did not use photographs to record crime scenes. These photographs have allowed us to interpret certain things even 112 years later.
This is the sitting room in which the body of Andrew Borden was found. He was murdered somewhere around 11 o'clock that morning.
Lang and Moriello recreate the scene in the same room. In the photo, the victim lies on the couch, the front of his head smashed in from the nose to his left ear. With help from a reenactor, Lang and Moriello examine the corpse.
We know that bodies themselves are actually evidence. Any wounds, blood patterns could tell us how the crimes occurred.
Can you follow me up the stairs here?
Andrew's body was discovered first, but the coroner concluded Abby was killed first.
It was in this area that the body of Abby Borden was found. She was murdered somewhere around 9:30 that morning.
Though crude, the photo clearly shows Abby face down in a pool of blood. One blow landed between the shoulders. 18 more crushed her skull.
The way she is here, I think there's a possibility she may have been kneeling when she was struck.
Or she's been moved prior to the photograph being
Sure.
taken, because there was a lot of people in and out of this room before the photographer was finally called.
County Medical Examiner William Dolan testified that he and the Borden family physician inspected the bodies at 11:45 a.m.
The pictures that we see that are the crime scene pictures are 3 in the afternoon. They've been lying in their places since 9, 9:30, 11, 11:15.
Though the trail of clues is a century cold, the detectives have already uncovered a startling fact. The photographic evidence was compromised from the start. As the investigation proceeds, the detectives will inspect the alleged murder weapon and, for the first time, link 2 key clues together. On the morning of August 4th, 1892, a brutal axe murder took the lives of Andrew Borden and his wife, Abby. By afternoon, word of the killing spread like wildfire through Fall River, Massachusetts. Though successful, Andrew Borden wasn't popular. He had a reputation as a miser, yet his hoarding never paid off.
His $250,000 fortune was certainly not sizable enough to gain entree into the city's most exclusive society.
Instead of a grand manor on the hill, Andrew chose to live in a modest house in an unfashionable part of town.
The Bordens didn't even have gas lighting, and at that time in 1892, most every house was at least hooked up to the gas mains, and he wasn't. So, the Bordens would actually use kerosene lamps, and, there are stories that at night they would even sit in the dark to save kerosene. So when we look at that from today's perspective, we look at that, we know that that really wasn't normal.
There are a lot of stories about how he threw out widows and children from the houses that he owned if they couldn't pay the rent. Generally speaking, there was a feeling in Fall River that, to quote, somebody did a good job.
But the society that shunned him in life flocked to his death.
There were crowds of people that would gather outside in front of the Borden house and watch.
At 11:45 a.m., 45 minutes after Borden's murder, the police arrived.
It's still warm. I want you men to search the house. Find a weapon. A meat cleaver, an axe, anything that could have done that.
As Tom Lang discovered, what happened next was criminal.
It's wet.
We know that the crime scene was never secured. We know that potential suspects and witnesses were never isolated, they were never properly interviewed. You want the crime scene preserved. None of that was done.
There was no real discussion on the analysis of the blood. And I guess maybe in 1892, they didn't recognize the significance of that type of evidence at a crime scene.
Searching the house, the police gathered up possible murder weapons. Then, in a box of coal dust in the basement, they found something fishy.
The handle had been freshly broken from the hatchet head, and the hatchet looked like it had been covered recently in ash. It was just suspicious, so the police used that as the possible murder weapon.
Ever since the trial, that same hatchet head has rested in the vaults of the Fall River Historical Society. Investigators Tom Moriello and Tom Lang obtained permission to examine it. It is the first time modern detectives have been allowed to handle the alleged murder weapon.
But now this is the axe that introduced at trial.
This is one that was found in the basement with others. Class characteristics are consistent with a weapon that could have been, but there was no blood on it. It looks like it's been cut. When it was found by the police officer, it was placed in a way to give it appearance that it had been there for a while, but it was pretty obvious it was recent.
But again, as you said, this wasn't checked for the presence of blood, unless it was just visual. Again, another unanswered question.
The Fall River Historical Society holds another piece of evidence, one the police overlooked.
Okay, this appears to be a scarf apparently worn by Abby at the time she was killed. It appears to be somewhat shredded, very old, and be very careful with that. That's very fragile.
Can't tell much about this, but this is interesting right here.
It appeared to be a cut mark.
For the first time, these two pieces of evidence are brought together.
This is what I want. I've been wanting to do this right here.
Okay.
I just for the heck of it, I wanted to see this particular hole right here is certainly consistent with this very nicely.
The hatchet head fits the slit perfectly. The investigators seem to have made a break in a century-old murder. They've connected Abby's scarf to the purported murder weapon, a connection the police likely missed. Police case files never mention it. With the alleged murder weapon in hand, the police looked for suspects with cause to use it.
The first suspect, by the police anyway, was Bridget Sullivan. And of course, the Irish community will always tell you, you always blame the Irish maid.
According to police, the maid's story didn't wash.
Tell me where you were this morning.
Well, I washed the windows this morning, and then I was quite tired, so I went upstairs to lie down.
The police thought Bridget had an axe to grind. The Bordens were said to be harsh employers who couldn't even be bothered to learn her name. Instead, they called her the name of a former maid.
Maggie, I called you earlier.
It's Bridget, Mum.
Yes, Bridget. I think the windows could use a good cleaning.
Begging your pardon, but it's an awfully hot day for it, and I've been feeling quite poorly.
Well, we're all feeling poorly. So up to it, clean the uppers and lowers, indoors and out.
Bridget claimed she was on the south side of the house when Mrs. Borden was murdered. She saw and heard nothing. To test her story, Tom Moriello resorts to child's play.
Well, Tom, this is a three-dimensional representation of the Borden crime scene as it was in 1892. What do you think?
A dollhouse? What's a dollhouse going to tell us?
Well, I've been using the dollhouse as a tool for many years to train my students and police officers on how to view a crime scene from all different angles in a three-dimensional way. It gives them an opportunity to see what each player in the crime saw. Okay, Tom, now to show you the benefit of this tool, let's take this front wall off so we can get a better view here. Now, where were the various players at that time?
To begin with, Lizzie was downstairs. Bridget, the housekeeper, tells us that she was washing windows probably over here on the south side of the residence.
Okay.
So we'll put Bridget down here washing the windows. She's outside the house.
The Borden house is 47 feet long by 27 feet wide. so Bridget was no more than 35 feet from where Abby was killed. From where she stood, she couldn't see the murder, but could she have heard it?
Oh, it's you.
Abby Borden weighed more than 200 pounds. She would have hit the floor with a thud. Would Bridget have heard it? To find out, Detective Tom Lang positions himself downstairs where Bridget was cleaning. Next to him, recording equipment calibrated to the sensitivity of the human ear. Upstairs, a stand-in for Mrs. Borden.
210 pounds. We'll see what a real body sounds like forward.
The sound echoed throughout the house.
I can attest to the fact that with somebody just free falling onto the floor in that exact spot, it does make a jolt and you can hear it.
The test casts doubt on Bridget's story. The police didn't believe her either.
The name is Bridget, Mom.
They theorized that she killed Mrs. Borden at 9:30 a.m., then waited until 10:45, when Andrew Borden came home from his morning rounds.
Why is the store locked on the inside, Maggie?
It's Bridget, sir. The name is Bridget.
But Bridget had an alibi. The maid next door told police she and Bridget were chatting around 9:30 a.m. when police believe Mrs. Borden was murdered.
I got it. I'm proud of you.
Even Lizzie herself proclaimed Bridget's innocence.
I find that very fascinating because Lizzie really could have turned around and blamed Bridget for this. And the police would have believed a Borden over an immigrant, for sure, at that time.
But if Bridget was innocent, why did she lie? To cover up her gossiping? Or were her reasons more sinister? Whatever the reason, the police dropped Bridget as a suspect and began investigating the only others in the house on the day of the murder. The family itself. 1892. A double murder in Massachusetts makes headlines across the country. Over 100 years later, investigators Tom Moriello and Tom Lang dig deeper into the Borden case to find out who really done it.
The biggest mystery of the Lizzie Borden case is the actual case itself. It's a mystery because we don't have answers to a myriad of questions.
I believe that whoever did it had to have blood on them, and the question is, where did it go?
To find the answer, they reopen the coroner's files.
At approximately 4 o'clock on that summer afternoon, the city coroner, as well as the family physician, performed autopsies on the bodies of Abby and Andrew Borden.
The autopsies were performed in the house. The autopsy photographs clearly show that Andrew Borden was autopsied in the room in which he had been murdered.
In both cases, the cause of death was found to be sharp force trauma to the head.
The ghoulish thing is that after the partial autopsy, the bodies were left in the house. So from Thursday to Friday night, they were in the dining room.
7 days later, all of Fall River turned out for the double funeral. But the Bordens would not rest in peace yet.
The burial was interrupted up at Oak Grove Cemetery because the medical examiner had demanded a second autopsy, which was performed in a receiving vault. They also removed the heads from the victims. The bodies were interred without their heads, and the skulls were retained as evidence.
They were boiled down, supposedly.
According to the coroner's report, the damage done to the Borden skulls was so significant that it was believed that no woman suspect could have inflicted such damage.
You can tell me where you were this morning.
The police questioned the only man known to have been in the house the night before the murders, Lizzie's uncle, John Morse.
He had the misfortune of coming to 92 2nd Street the day before the murders. But if you look at how he behaved on the day of the murders, you can just about eliminate him as a suspect.
John Morse was able to account for his time throughout that day.
He had a very good alibi. He had been on the other side of town, and he could remember the badge number of the streetcar conductor.
Even better, police could find no motive. The next suspect was Emma, the older Borden sister.
Emma, on the other hand, was a somewhat reclusive person. The word timid comes to mind. She had a much weaker personality than Lizzie.
Emma, too, had an alibi. Witnesses placed her miles away at the time of the murders. She arrived home to find her family in ruins. All she could do was clean up the blood.
And so the police's attention turned to the only other person in the house at the time of the murders, Lizzie.
But Lizzie had already been eliminated as a suspect.
There's no blood evidence linking her to the crime. She didn't have any blood on her. And they assumed at the time that anyone wielding a hatchet to kill someone at such close range would certainly be spattered with blood.
The police noted the extensive blood spray throughout the two crime scenes, yet nobody who was suspect to the crime was ever observed with any signs of blood on them. Could the murderer have somehow avoided having blood placed on them?
The investigators enlist the help of an expert to recreate the blood splatters in the Borden case. Dr. Michael Vitullo is an emergency room physician who has witnessed dozens of axe wounds to the head.
The majority of the axe blows that I see are accidental and not malignantly inflicted.
Dr. Vitullo has prepared several small models to simulate the human head.
The melon represents a skull, the fluid-filled glove being the large venous capacitance vessels of the scalp.
Based on those simulated variables, do you believe that we're going to have a good understanding of the direction that the blood would have went and whether it would have hit the perpetrator?
Yes, I think the splatter pattern of the blood part of it will be representative.
You know, I think we're going to have a little bit of splatter around here. We may want to get suited up.
In forensic science, blood splatter can pinpoint the angle of attack, the force of the blow, and other variables of a violent crime.
Okay, we're going to simulate that this is the father who was hit from behind on an angle. Gentlemen, you ready?
Ready.
All ready.
Okay. Okay, gentlemen, why don't you step over here and tell me what you're seeing.
Well, Tom, you're covered with splatter, and it's everywhere, including on your face and on the front of your smock.
This tells us the idea of the person hitting from behind not getting splattered. Doesn't make any sense at all.
In fact, I'd go so far as to say 90% of the splatter is back towards you. I was standing like 4 feet in front of you. I got nothing on me.
So the bulk of it was right back at it.
Judging by the test, the killer should have been covered with blood.
I felt it hit my face.
When questioned on the afternoon of the murders, Lizzie was spotless. One theory explains the lack of blood. Lizzie committed the murders in the nude. If her conscience wasn't clean, her body was. A sensational theory, but unlikely. The police investigation hit a wall until a close friend let slip a disturbing detail, one that led to Lizzie's arrest for murder. The the crime of the century had police baffled. The Borden murders were committed in broad daylight on a busy street, yet the police couldn't make a single arrest.
Tell me where you were this night.
Then, 8 days later, suspicion fell on the most unlikely suspect, the Borden's younger daughter, Lizzie. A neighbor testified she saw Lizzie burning a dress in the kitchen stove just 2 days after the murders.
Her explanation is that she took a dress that was an old dress that had paint on it. Your parents just got killed. You know you're under suspicion. Why would you even attempt to do something that has, like that, unless you were trying to destroy evidence?
After the neighbor testified, police returned to the Borden house with a warrant.
Well, we have a suspect.
Well, who? I believe I have the right to know.
Well, I'm afraid it's you.
Lizzie used her inheritance to hire the best defense money could buy.
She had a great legal team. She had the dream team. And she paid quite a bit for that.
The prosecution pulled out all the stops. Among their exhibits, the skulls of Lizzie's parents and the now infamous hatchet head.
It was introduced as evidence in the trial, but it was not proven to be the murder weapon.
Would it be possible today to positively identify the hatchet as the murder weapon? To find out, our detectives went to the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office to speak with senior research criminalist Steve Dowell.
Nice to meet you.
Steve, what we're looking for is, can you tell us, with today's technology, whether we can determine that a certain instrument, like a hatchet, can in fact be shown to be the actual instrument that made trauma to a head, like a human head, to the exclusion of all others?
It's quite possible today in forensic science, with the technology available, to make that determination. A tool mark is produced when a tool, in this case a hatchet, comes in contact with the skull and leaves some information about the tool behind in the material, in this case bone.
Steve uses a comparison microscope, an instrument that feeds two different magnified video images to a monitor for a side-by-side analysis.
And we can see now that if we wipe back and forth, in fact, it's hard even to see that there's a difference between one screen and the other.
It seems likely, then, that the hatchet could be positively linked to the skulls of the victims. Unfortunately, the skulls were later reinterred with the bodies of Andrew and Abby Borden, and the courts have steadfastly refused to grant requests for exhumation. Nevertheless, the skulls were used by the prosecution to great effect at Lizzie's trial. But Lizzie got her money's worth. Her dream team dreamed up a new suspect. They presented several reliable witnesses who reported seeing a stranger in front of the Borden house on the morning of the murders.
Everyone was convinced that someone had come in from the outside and killed Andrew and Abby Borden.
One of the more interesting theories that I find is the stranger theory. The theory has it that Abby has returned home, Andrew is already in the house, and there's a knock at the front door. Mom goes to the front door, opens the door, and here is the stranger.
Can I help you?
It's Mr. Borden in. She recognizes the stranger as a former employee of Andrew.
He's in the sitting room. I'll let him know.
She's not all familiar with the relationship between the two, but she allows the stranger to enter.
Go right in.
The stranger's going to enter, and perhaps she thinks Andrew has cheated him out of money, enters with a hatchet.
You? What are you doing here?
We have a score to settle.
Get out, or I'll report you to the police.
I don't think so.
He realizes then, of course, that Abby has gone upstairs. So he's going to have to get rid of her because she can identify him.
Oh, it's you. I told you he's in the living room.
The mysterious stranger hypothesis was interesting, but has problems. The coroner determined that Abby died about an hour and a half before Andrew.
If there was over an hour lapse in time between the two murders, where was this killer? This killer didn't have a lot of options as far as hiding places, unless the killer was one of the people who was in the family, in the house.
Under scrutiny, the mysterious stranger hypothesis falls apart, but it gave the all-male jury a reasonable doubt. On June 20th, 1893, after deliberating only an hour, they acquitted Lizzie.
Lizzie Borden took an axe.
The nursery rhyme got the facts wrong, both the whacks and the whacker. Lizzie left the courtroom free and rich.
Her father was a wealthy man. He had an estate of about $350,000. She got half of that. $350,000 in 1892 would be several $1 million today.
Despite her fortune, Lizzie was shunned by Fall River society, just like her father. Most of the town thought she did it. Lizzie eventually moved out of her parents' home and bought a larger house in a better part of town. No evidence has ever been found to condemn or exonerate Lizzie Borden. But in the basement of the Borden house, the detectives, now armed with forensic science, uncover clues. Invisible a century ago.
Ooh, what the hell is this? What the? Can you catch that?
The Borden murders of 1892 resemble the O.J. Simpson case a century later. Both cases hinged on blood, or in Lizzie Borden's case, the lack of it. When the police questioned Lizzie, she didn't have a speck of blood on her, or so it seemed. Armed with forensics and a hunch, detectives returned to the scene of the crime. If there's blood in the Borden house, they hope to find it in the basement. Even when blood is washed away, invisible traces remain. When sprayed with a caustic chemical called luminol, these traces will glow in the dark. Moments after application, the luminol will take effect. If evidence lurks in the basement, darkness will bring it to light.
Okay, now if we can get all the lights off. All lights off.
That was area. When we sprayed the luminol in that whole area, that one piece of wood, which we believe would have been directly below his head, glowed like a light bulb, and that was amazing.
I have significant reaction.
I mean, why, after 112 years, this is the first time anyone has ever done this. It's absolutely amazing to think that someone didn't think of coming in here and testing for blood before we did it, and apparently they haven't.
After finding blood stains on the ceiling, investigators doused the area where the hatchet was found.
Look at over here. Look at the joints over here.
Oh yeah.
Just over here. I mean, if there was something on the cement that was causing that, then we would get it everywhere. Mm-hmm. But we're getting it right here.
It's just in that one area.
Though the hatchet head looked clean when it was found, something bloody was placed here. In a small corner of the basement, in a sink called a dry well, the investigators hit pay dirt.
What the hell is this? Can you catch that?
Completely around the circumference. I mean, this has obviously been used more than a couple of times for something that contained blood. A low reaction to luminol could be caused by other chemicals. The trailing of the substance in this matter around the so-called dry sink in the basement, the location where the head of the hatchet was found, and also on the floorboards beneath where Andrew Borden's body was found, indicate the possibility that that in fact is blood.
Possibly, just possibly, those positive reactions were caused by blood from 112 years ago.
This possible blood could have come from anywhere, but of course it could also have come from someone washing herself of blood evidence at the time. Could this be why the police never found blood on Lizzie's clothing?
How do we know that Mr. Borden didn't walk in the house at 10:45? He could have been killed immediately. That would have given Lizzie or Bridget or whoever the killer was a full half hour to clean up. And that's plenty of time to get yourself presentable.
But the theory is missing one crucial element: motive. Why would Lizzie Borden murder her parents? The answer may lie in a new field of criminal science: forensic psychology. A forensic psychologist probes the minds of criminals and victims after they're dead.
19 whacks to the head is rage. That's anger. Women do not kill just off the cuff. They kill for very deep emotional reasons.
The final clue lies deep in the mind. Psychological profiling may unmask a dark family secret and a motive for spilling blood. Though Lizzie Borden was found innocent in the axe murders of her parents, modern investigators unearth evidence of her guilt. Still missing is a motive. Why would a Sunday school teacher brutally murder her parents? Dr. Stephen Kane has analyzed the behavior of Lizzie Borden in a process called psychological autopsy. It began as a lesson for his students, but the results were more than academic.
Essentially, she was depressed, number one, and I think she suffered from a dissociative disorder and was extremely impulsive. I think those behaviors are the result of her being victimized by sexual abuse.
Tell Mrs. Borden I need to see her.
I haven't seen her all morning, Father. I think she stepped out.
Both Lizzie and Andrew left clues of a disturbingly close relationship.
As Lizzie advanced in high school, she gave her father her high school ring. I think that was probably at the peak of incestuous behavior.
Andrew Borden showed signs of a sexually abusive father.
He was the real scary one to me. One of the hallmarks of an incestuous father is secrecy. He was morbidly obsessed, almost to a paranoid degree, of keeping everything contained within that house. All of the secrets and all of the events that went on there.
Even reporters hinted at the Bordens' dark secret.
Did find an article in the newspaper at that time in 1892 where it almost came out and said that incest was going on in the house and with the father or the Uncle Moss.
Psychologists say incest victims often blame both parents, which would explain Lizzie's attack on her stepmother. The case had all the ingredients for the crime of the century: a prominent family, a badly kept secret, a dysfunctional home, and a human time bomb. And one more. We still don't know who did it, but evidence suggests the bloodbath was building for years. Their investigation complete. The investigators now recreate the crime based on their discoveries.
Here's a possible timeline of events. 9 a.m. Abby Borden asks her maid, Bridget, to wash the windows. Abby then goes upstairs to the guest room to make the bed. It's 9:15 a.m. Lizzie Borden walks up the stairs to confront her stepmother.
Oh, it's you.
It's now 10:15 a.m. Andrew Borden returns home from his appointments.
Why was this door locked on the inside, Maggie?
It's Bridget, sir.
As soon as she opened the door, she wasn't feeling well. She left. She went upstairs into her room. Abby's dead up here in the front bedroom. Lizzie came down.
It's 10:20 a.m. Andrew Borden lies down to take a nap. 10:25 a.m. Lizzie Borden kills her father. It's now 10:30 a.m. Bridget discovers the crime.
Miss Lizzie, what have you done?
Somebody's killed Father.
The two begin to clean up together.
We've got to get you out of this. Come with me.
Did Bridget have some compassion for Lizzie? Conspiracy between Bridget and Lizzie? Possibly, sure. And maybe that's why perhaps Bridget wasn't as forthcoming with her statement.
If I was asked to give a conclusion, I believe Lizzie Borden, in fact, committed the crime. I think that we can't ignore the obvious.
As a homicide detective, I have to be a little more pragmatic. I can't use supposition. I have to look at the evidence. The evidence certainly shows Lizzie probably is the strongest suspect to commit these murders.
Working from less evidence, a jury acquitted Lizzie. For 35 years, she lived quietly in the town where her parents were butchered. After the verdict, Bridget Sullivan dropped out of sight to reappear decades later in a town in Montana. Lizzie died in 1927. She was buried in a family plot beside her father and stepmother.
It amazes me the number of people who are so caught up in the Borden case. The number of people who are so caught up in it that it actually dominates their lives, it controls their lives.
Why does a crime more than a century old remain so fresh? Partly because the scene of the crime has barely changed, but mostly because of a verse we